School of Addiction. Today's topic is New Year, New Brain, and my name's Ashley Bloxham. For those who are new to my channel, I'm a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma, but I'm also an addictions counsellor. I have studied addiction and mental health right the way up to PhD, and I have also overcame addiction, and that is the thing that qualifies as the most. And I know what it's like to have loved ones who struggle with addiction, so I have unfortunately a good view around addiction. So today's topic is New Year, New Me. Sorry, New Brain. Not new me, new brain. So I saw this thing. It was a Diver CEO, and it was Chris Williamson, and he was talking about a really good concept about why New Year's resolutions fail. And I'm going to apply that to addiction. So what he said is often what we do is we decide that we're going to do X, Y, and Z, the thing. This is going to be the new year, new me. And what we don't equate for the fact is that actually we're going to be taken away from something else. So we're adding on something and we don't have any extra time or energy. So what he says we need to do, quite cleverly, is we need to take something away. So we're bringing it back to net zero. Now, what that made me think about is with addiction recovery, often we're doing the opposite. So we have the addiction, which takes all the time and the energy, and then we might be saying for New Year, I'm going to stop, and we remove the addiction, but we don't replace it with something. So if we're going to accept that, one, we need to replace it with something first off. Second off, let's be strategic in what we're replacing the addiction with. So if we think about addiction, one of the issues that we have with relapse is that our brains start to get really chaotic and it's really stressful and we get cravings, and this is all the limbic system. So if we want to counteract and kind of fight back the limbic system, we need to turn the prefrontal cortex online. We need to strengthen it. So if we pick an activity which is going to help us strengthen the connections in our prefrontal cortex to counteract the limbic system when we're getting urges, then we're going to have a better chance of recovery. So things which do that, we could do martial arts. That's great because it's all learning how to stay calm and present under high stress. We can do ice baths, we can do saunas, so anything where it's high stress and we're having to learn to regulate our bodies, that will help us in addiction recovery. We can also do things like learning how to play an instrument, anything where we've got to get frustrated but we need to just chill out and think, or it could be yoga or just learning a new skill. So something where it's a little bit difficult and it's going to piss us off a little bit, and then we have to learn to regulate through it, and that's going to be a transferable skill into the addiction recovery because it's the same brain connections. So to recap, new year, new brain, that means just because we're removing the addiction doesn't mean that's enough. We need to replace it, and ideally with something which strengthens our prefrontal cortex, because that is going to be helpful in cravings and it's going to distract us. So let's say people are saying, hi Jaden, hi ABD, how are you doing? I'm doing good, thank you. Jaden, my name is Landon. I like that name, that's a cool name. Miss, you look like Karina from Aspia. I don't know who Karina is. I don't know her. L'être magnifique. Thank you. I think that's a positive compliment. Magnifique sounds positive. How are you doing, Jim? I love your accent, thank you. So if anyone's got any questions around addiction and mental health, I'm a therapist, so I'll be willing to answer them, or at least do my best. But I'm going to go back to, hey, what was that you had under there? I don't know what you're on about. So I'm going to go back to the original topic of around New Year's resolutions, and specifically if we're talking about addiction or mental health. So like I said, it's really important not just to remove the thing, but to replace it. But it's equally important when we decide we've got a New Year's resolution, it's usually something just so overwhelmingly big that the majority of people cancel within the first week. And I think it's like 90% or 80%, I can't remember the stats, of people haven't even seen out till January. And this is really similar in addiction recovery. We say we're gonna stop, and often people don't get past 3 days. Then 3 weeks people taper off, and then some people get to 3 months and start to get cocky. So, or a big trigger happens. So what's really helpful is to think about, okay, instead of having the New Year's resolution, which might be work on my mental health or addiction recovery, being so big that then we just think, well, actually, I don't have the steam to do that anymore. Think about how can I break it down into something smaller. So don't go for the big New Year's resolution, go for the little tiny things, something that you know that on the 1st of January you can wake up and actually put into action. And as I've said, if we can replace it with something that strengthens our prefrontal cortex, that might be the thing you do, you tackle. This OF model stream is the weirdest one I've seen all day. I'm happy with that. I am weird. I don't know what OF means, so I'm not down with the kids. I'm not down with the YouTube slang. I'm not picking up what you're putting down, but yeah. 92% is a death part. Yeah, so 92% don't get past the first week. Yeah, I knew it was a ridiculously high percentage. Yeah, and I think it's because we're doing something like, I'm going to have my dream body. That is something, like, if we want to have a dream body, you know, that's great. But actually, when we're starting to go back to work and the motivations came down and reality's kicked in of, like, actually, that's a lot, it can be hard to maintain it. And it's exactly the same with addiction recovery. We're like, I want to get sober, but actually, when we're getting to maybe look, I didn't even get to 6 o'clock the next day a lot of the time. But even when I got to like day 2 or 3, you start to lose steam. So it's good to start thinking about, okay, what's more manageable? What's one step toward my recovery that I can do, as opposed to being recovered. Skiff is saying my prefrontal cortex is way underdeveloped. Do you have ADHD, or are you just under the age of 25 to 27? But yeah, we can strengthen our prefrontal cortex. So there's a certain part of your I think it's your anterior prefrontal cortex, which is it's a part of our brain that we use for like thinking about our thinking. So it's a part of the brain which we use to observe the other parts of the brain which are in firing up. So for instance, our limbic system. So we observe our emotions, and we observe why did I just say that? Why did I behave like that? And that's a great thing to strengthen as well. So that can be done by simply reflecting on the ways you've behaved today. So think of it like journaling, but strength training. And you can sit there and think, okay, what behaviors have I had today? What emotions have I had? Why might have I had those emotions? And just keep reflecting. And what you'll start to notice is you start to notice more and more in the moment. And what that means for addiction recovery is if you're noticing that you're having a craving as opposed to being absolutely consumed by the craving, it feels like you've got distance between you and the craving. And it's a lot more manageable. And this is the same for all mental health. So I use this, it's called metacognition, a lot with bipolar. And I'll observe, I'm being really depressed. I'm doing things which are really unhelpful, which are actually making us more depressed. So it acts as a circuit breaker to think, well, maybe actually I'm going to do something different. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons why there's silicone implants to fix your cortex LMAO. I've never heard of that. I feel like that might be a joke, but I'm autistic, so I never know if someone's being sarcastic or not. I think the LMAO is an indication, though. I'm gonna go with that. Probably also an indication that you're like in my age bracket as well. Because I feel like if I said that to my Gen Z sister, she would tell us I need to grow, like, I need to get a life. I'm too old. Skids, so ADHD and mild autism. Yeah, so Skiff, I've got ADHD and autism as well. It presents as mild because the two cancel each other out, don't they? So yeah, you absolutely can still strengthen your prefrontal cortex. It's something that it's harder, but just like anything. So if anyone's got any mental health disorders and they're viewing it a bit like a sentence, like, oh, I've been diagnosed and I've got these symptoms, which means I'm going to be stuck like this forever. I had a psychiatrist or a psychologist, one of the two, explain it in a really good way, which I found helpful. So he said, think of your brain. If you've got a normal brain, so a neurotypical brain, think of it like this cup, and information, just get that off. Information just comes in like this. It's just easy to get information in and data. But if you've got a neurodivergent brain, think of it like having a wine bottle. So instead of it just like going in, you've got a stem. Or if you think of it like a straw, you've got to get information and learning new skills in through a straw. But when it gets in, you've got the same amount of capacity. It's just harder. So for things like training your prefrontal cortex, like training, I'm talking about the anterior prefrontal cortex, metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. It's going to take much longer than somebody else, but you can do it. And look, I'm living proof. I've got ADHD and autism, and I am so much better at regulating my emotions than I used to be. Sometimes, I still get triggered. Not gonna lie, not perfect. Right, it's a pre-recorded message, lovely saying. It is not, because if it was a pre-recorded message, I would still be lying in my boyfriend's bed because I could not be asked to get up and come home and do this. But I thought I've committed to it, so. Morning, Lulu. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. Right, let's see what other people are saying. I want to ascend, lol. Motiva saying, yeah, sometimes ascending comes with its own set of problems. I'm not gonna lie. Anytime my life ascends, I'm like, yeah, I kind of got rid of that shit. Now I've got to deal with this shit. So be careful what you wish for. I'm quite happy not ascending at the moment, to be honest. I feel like I've had enough ascensions in my life. Oh, you're live? Yes, I am live. I always trust mental advice from someone with hand tattoos. I don't know if you've been sarcastic, but I had someone on my channel the other day and they were saying, they were trying to say that I shouldn't be here helping people with addiction because I've got rings and tattoos. And I was like, we've got people who are like an active heroin addiction on my channel. I feel like rings and tattoos and you're just not really that high of the priority list at the moment. Do I like cocaine, Toma? Good question. I used to like it. I don't like it now. I'm very weary of drugs after getting to the point where I was like that addicted that I gave birth on drugs, terrified, and then still relapse. So there was a point, I'm not gonna lie, when I did love it. Right, let's see what else. Yeah, physical training is indeed great to improve mental satisfaction. Yeah, Random King, it really is. If you can do something like martial arts, that is really good because, if you think, I'm using this as an example, so if you can do it, great. If you can't, think of something else where you can get the same kind of outcome. So the thing with martial arts and how it links in with addiction and mental health is, what you're doing is you're getting put under high stress, so craving, anxiety, high stress, and it is physical anxiety. But what you have to do is learn to calm your nervous system, calm your thoughts so that you can think strategically on how to move next. Because if not, you're just gonna you're gonna cause chaos and you're gonna get yourself in a worse tangle. So something like martial arts, you have to learn to just relax yourself and act with precision. As opposed to reacting, instead of just being reactive, you have to learn to react with precision. So martial arts is great for that. But there's other ways that we can do that. There's other ways that we can put ourselves in situations where we've got high stress and we need to learn to calm our nervous systems. And something as simple as cold showers or ice baths, saunas can do that as well. Like Random King saying, physical training. So yeah, let's see what else. Tips on quitting alcohol, Nolan's saying. Yeah, so first of all, with alcohol and benzocaines, it's really important to remember that actually just stopping it can be fatal. So if you go cold turkey on heroin, it's less of a risk than if you go cold turkey on alcohol or benzocaines, because your body's chemically addicted to it, but it can also send your body into shock. So first of all, I would say go with a professional who can help you reduce down. What I don't want to do on this channel is be anything but real. So there are people who don't want to go to healthcare professionals for whatever reasons. So I'd say certainly research on how to safely come off it, and that might be a job with AI, but I really would urge you to go to a service. So the first thing is you need to learn about your drug, and you need to try and think about, okay, what practical steps can I take to get us off it? So that might be, so you can get medication through your GP. Same with heroin, there's different things for different drug addictions. So that's the first one, services. But the second one that we need to think about is our physical body. So your body's going to take an absolute battering. Like, it's going to be really difficult. So try and think about, okay, how am I going to manage my sleep? How am I going to make sure that I'm eating well? This might be something you prepare for beforehand. So do like a really healthy food shop before you come to your addiction, so you've got some like good stuff to put in your body. It really does make a difference. And then how can I introduce some physical exercise? And that just might be going out for walks, even if you have to schedule them with somebody, one of your friends. So that's your body. Next is connection. So you're going to have to lean into connection. That might be friends, loved ones. It might be support groups. They are amazing, because then you're going to have inspiring people. And then finally, I would say, is your mind. So learning how to regulate your emotions in your nervous system, learning how to love yourself. So one of the most important things with addiction recovery is learning to give yourself grace. Learning to say, okay, yeah, I have got an addiction, but actually it's not my fault. And if you do not believe that, research it, because all of the addiction research says that there is reasons why we have an addiction, and it's not an individual failing. So yeah, I would say learn to give yourself grace. So that is the 4 things I'd do. And you can also join my addiction group, which is free and starting in January. And if anyone's struggling, you can have a free one-to-one. Just go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. Has anybody who's overcame addiction got some tips for people? Hi, Deathhawk, how you doing? Right. You remind me of coffee with toffee. That sounds cute. I don't know what coffee with toffee is, but it sounds cute. Learn and then muscle memory. Yeah, it is, Elsie. Like, just if we think about addiction, mental health, or just even our personalities, is just neuroplasticity. And that's why I talk about a lot on the channel, because if we just realize that everything that we're doing in life is just a result of the neuroplasticity that we've got, it's just our brains, then what we can do is start to change that. We can start to create new neuroplasticity, which is more helpful, which is like, we can think of it like a personality transplant. If there's things in our personality, aka we're doing behaviors like addiction, or we're not great at relationships, or whatever it is, we can decide, do you know what it is? I get to rewire my brain. And it is exactly what Elsie is saying, through muscle memory, just practicing. So yeah, we could, instead of new year, new me, just think new year, new brain. And I'm going to every day just do one little thing to change my brain, and life will be better. And if you just commit to one thing a day, one little thing to create a new brain that works for you, not against you, you will have a very different life at the end of 2026. Trust us. Right, Risa is saying, I was on heroin for years, then on Subonox, then methadone. Getting off that is the hardest thing I've ever done for the pain. No amount of fruit will help. Yeah, look, Risa, I don't want to insult you. My best friend got off heroin. So I came off ketamine. And I've had a chemical addiction to quetiapine. Luckily, they weren't together. So I've not had to experience rattling and going cold turkey plus psychological addiction. But it's not, honestly, I don't want to insult you by saying a bit of fruit's going to help. And I've watched my friend go through that, and I've never seen such a warrior in my life go through, because the thing what Risa's talking about, when you're coming off methadone, so she was coming up dropping every 2 weeks, and each drop gets harder, so you drop the methadone down, and I've never seen someone on their knees go to battle and win it like she did. So I don't want to insult you saying get some fruit, but what I am saying is research varies, but up to 85% of people do not get to the first year of recovery after addiction. So the majority of people relapse in their first year. And what I'm trying to say is, instead of just removing the thing, try and think about strategically, okay, I'm going to go to war against addiction. And what can I do to support myself through that? And that is like thinking about it from every angle. So when somebody's saying, I want to quit alcohol, don't think about, I'm just going to remove the alcohol. Think about think about it from every single angle. What every little thing can I do to ensure that I'm not going to be in that 85%. I'm going to be in that 25%. So yeah. But Risa, what do you think helped you? Because obviously you've done I can't imagine how much grit and determination it took to get off heroin, because it was fucking hard to get off ketamine. So what would you say is helpful to people? Yeah. Right, Death Hawk, Rebel. It depends if weed is oil, is recreational or medical, and if it's THC or CBD. Death Hawk, do you want to be a mod, by the way? Because I've got less people on today, but you seem to know your stuff a little bit, and you're quite hands-on with answering questions, which is super helpful. Right, Steinson is saying, if you go through withdrawal, don't fight it, go with it. Yeah. And this is where I was saying about what can be helpful about metacognition. So learning to strengthen the connections with your prefrontal cortex, so you can train your brain that when your limbic system fires, which is basically emotions and just also like your amygdala, stuff like, so fight or flight. And this is what withdrawal is. If we understand, it's basically extreme stress, because we're wanting the thing and now we're not getting it, so we're going to go into extreme stress. And if we can learn just to observe the stress, that will strengthen the prefrontal cortex, because that's rational thinking. And your anterior prefrontal cortex is actually the part which observes your thoughts and how you're behaving. So exactly what Steinson said, just go through the withdrawal. So that looks like taking a deep breath and saying, right, this is going to be extremely uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable, but let's feel where it feels. Where's it in my body? And it's an addiction tip called Craving surfing, I think it is. And basically you sit there and you observe it, and it's like a wave. So any withdrawal we'll have will feel like really intense, and it'll start to go up and up and up, and it'll peak, and then it goes down like this. And it's about, right, this is going to feel uncomfortable, but it's a physical feeling, and it's got a time limit on, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to observe it, I'm going to go through it, and at the end of it I'm going to praise the fucking life out of myself because I've done it, and I'm going to know that eventually that's going to get easier. So yeah, great advice. Risa said I couldn't sleep for weeks. Yeah, I think that's really common with a lot of addiction, not just methadone or heroin or whatever. It's also really common with a lot of withdrawal, and I think it's again thinking about how can I plan for that. So what I did, I don't know if they still sell this, but I ended up getting Nitol. You could buy liquid Nitol. And I used to take ketamine. That was my drug of choice, and I'll be real with you, I struggled to sleep on it. So I used to get Xanax or loads of different anything I could get hold of to get us to sleep. But if all else failed, I used to get liquid Nitol from the pharmacy and use that. So I did that. I bought that in preparation. So like just little things like that, just thinking, okay, I'm going to stop. And you can reduce down. That might make it a little bit easier. So if you think, right, I've got a 2-week period, maybe go to groups to keep yourself accountable, because you don't want to reduce and then give up, but have some accountability and reduce down. And then from them, like, right, while I'm reducing down, I'm going to start preparing things. Another preparation that we can do, thinking back to what whoever it was just said something, Steenson, about withdrawals. So if we're preparing to stop an addiction, we can instead of removing it completely, we can say, okay, I'm going to stop, say for instance what I did, ketamine. I'm going to stop that in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to reduce down, but I'm also going to practice getting control over it. So practice managing cravings. And that looks like, okay, would normally have a line of ket at say 10 a.m. I'm not going to have it at 10 a.m. When I feel like I'm going to have it at 11. And I'm going to go distract myself, or I'm going to sit with the craving and feel it and experience what getting to the end of a craving feels like without phoning my dealer. So getting used to getting a bit more control will help you as well. Elsie is saying drugs are good, not bad. I'd say they're benign. I don't want to sit here and tell people that drugs are bad. If people are enjoying drugs, it's problematic drug use that I'm here talking about. So it's like where drug use is becoming a problem. So addiction, and I say it all the time, addiction isn't using drugs or gambling or using porn. Addiction is having a problem with gambling, drugs, porn, whatever it is, having a problem that you want to stop, so you don't want to do the drugs anymore, and you can't stop it. You can't stop taking the drugs, that you're really struggling to take the drugs. That's addiction. So yeah. Right, okay. Steinson said, I did a cold turkey, heroin, 5 days of hell, had the greatest woman in the world at my side. I love that for you, Steinson. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Yeah, everyone does it differently. I mean, the thing with heroin, the only ones that you do have to be very careful of going cold turkey is alcohol and benzocaines, because it can be fatal. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine you doing that, because I went cold turkey off quetiapine, which was a prescription drug. And my friend who used to have a heroin addiction, she started noticing that I was chemically addicted to it, because she recognised the symptoms. So we were out, and normally I'd take my meds at, I think it was about 9, I can't remember. And it got to 10 o'clock and I was like starting itching, and I was like feeling really uncomfortable and agitated. I was like, God, I don't know what's wrong with this. And she was like, Ashley, you're rattling. Like that's a rattle. Like that. So I ended up going cold turkey off that. And it was horrible. And it was, yeah, I think it was 5 days of just like bones hurting, sweating. Ugh. So I dread to think what it would have been like on heroin. Yeah, Motivia is saying, when it disrupts your life, it's a problem. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like sitting here, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, drugs are bad, don't do drugs, because like the version of me who used to do drugs would be like, fuck off, you dickhead, I'm having a good time. The version of me who was knee deep in addiction would be like, please help. So like, I'm not here to sit there and say drugs are bad. Like that's not what we're here for. Right, okay. So Jacko, the sim racer, is saying, I'm stuck on pills, 4 different ones, and sleepers, but I need all of these for abusing Xanax and morphine, messing my brain up. I think the thing is, we'll have to think about what is the lesser issue. You know, I have people on the channel who come on and say, I smoke crack and now I smoke weed. Like, I'm never ever going to sit there and say that is about, like, what are you doing? That's horrible, because like realistically, crack or weed, I've known people who've struggled with crack addiction, and yeah, so if that's what you have to do, I guess the question, Jacko, is it something that you're wanting to come off? And is that discussions that you've had with healthcare professionals on how you might do that? Or are you just letting yourself breathe, or are you happy to continue that? Because it's all very personal. It's about what works for you. And realistically, Xanax and morphine, you know, is really quite problematic. Love that mug. Thank you, Sergio. I've got you 2 even nicer ones. I love see-through mugs, and my boyfriend got us this lush one with flowers in, and then my friend got us a lush one with little bows on. Yeah, the clear glass does look nice, doesn't it? I love it. Although the coffee's actually beyond freezing. And I did put the heating on before I did this, and it's, I don't know if my boiler pressure's dropped or something, but it's not working. So I've got a freezing cup of mug of coffee and a freezing body. It's not really warming us up. It's making us feel grim. Right, Indigo. I'm struggling with coke. Every time I say never again, I do it again. Wasted stupid amount of money, and I leave the house to get more at 3 a.m. Depressing. Yeah, 100% relate with that. Indigo, would you like a one-to-one? Anyone who's like really struggling, I'm happy you do free one-to-one, and I'm doing a group starting in January. But yeah, the thing is, so first of all, I want to ask you, Indigo. Well, if you want to have a one-to-one, let us know. If not, I can try and just give out some things. But if anyone who's struggling with coke, first of all, is it that you're having coke when you have a drink? Because that's a different thing, addiction, to just taking coke by itself. So if you have to have the two together, it's going to be considerably more difficult because it's chemically addictive as well as psychologically addictive. So that's, but I would prefer, if you're up for it, to do it over a one-to-one. Somebody's saying the Rockazoid is saying I'm delusional. I like to be delusional, to be honest with you. I like to live in little Ashley land. I think it's a little bit better than the real world. But yeah, you're crazy if you think you're helping someone. I mean, I don't really care. But look, if you're having a bit of fun sending in some messages, oh yeah, that's fine. Right, Dr. Pepper does it for me too. Dr. Pepper, is that a slang for something, or do you mean legit Dr. Pepper? I'm okay, thank you. No, mine would be even without drinking, but thanks. Yeah, so that, yeah, it's always the thing with, I was just checking with that because then you've got to tackle the alcohol as well. Look, Indigo, if my website is schoolofaddiction.co.uk, if ever you want to just get in touch when you feel like you're ready, then get in touch and we'll hash it out. And like I say, I don't charge. But one thing that you can do, so sometimes when we've got an addiction, like inactive addiction, and we're thinking, okay, I want to stop, and like you've already said, like I'm struggling with coke, I say I'm never going to do it, and then it gets to 3 a.m. and it's depressing. So one of the problems with that, and certainly what I felt is it gets more and more depressing because every time you say you're not going to be able to stop and you don't, it's almost like another bit of evidence that I can't do this. And then what it felt like for me, and I'd imagine, judging by what you've said, it's feeling like for you, correct us if I'm wrong, is that you start to quietly accept your fate of like, actually, I can't do this. And that becomes more and more scary and more depressing. And then you're like, where does this end? So the reason why that feels so shit is, one, because of everything we said, but two, it feels like you don't have a get out jail free card anymore. So one thing that you can do if you're not ready to stop is think about, okay, what can I do every day to get myself into a position that when I stop, it's going to be easier. So that is, and I know it sounds really lame, but it's learning to have, so when we remove drugs or alcohol, what happens is we're left with our own thoughts. We're left with like feeling shit. So one thing that we can really do, which will be helpful, is learn to create a nicer relationship with yourself. So start to be your own best friend, like start to big yourself up in life, just like by changing the way you talk to yourself. The other thing is learn how to calm and regulate your nervous system. So when you have cravings, like when you get to that point, you're going to be able to take a deep breath and calm yourself enough to say no. The second thing is rational thinking. So when we start to think about long-term things, so what do I want to be doing long term? How is this not helping us in the long term? What would my life look like if I wasn't doing it? And the reason why this is important is because it starts as using the prefrontal cortex, which is used for rational thinking and long-term planning. So thinking about the bigger picture. And it's also responsible for impulse control. So when we're short-term thinking in like, I'm going to do cocaine now, we're acting on impulse. So the more we get used to thinking about it long term, the more we're going to be acting with impulse control. Think about that as your brain's brakes. So practice these little things and start learning these things as much as possible before you stop the addiction. So then at least you're still doing something towards your recovery instead of just feeling like I'm fucked, like I'm royally fucked and that's it. It's like, no, that's not it. I'm doing something every day toward stopping my addiction. Yeah, so Indigo is saying, is it Indigo who said that? Who said? Yeah, Indigo. So Indigo is saying it's dealing with boredom and society. I go to the gym, keep healthy, but then demon creeps and it's like Mary and our ending of hell. Then you leave house, get more alcohol and horrible shit. Yeah, so that's really helpful to me, obviously not to you, but right, so we've got some information here. So when our life feels boring and shit, like realistically the thing that's making us feel good, we're not really gonna be that motivated to take it away when if we remove it we're just left with a boring shit life. So like, when you're saying like I'm just boredom in society, like if we haven't got stuff in our life which is making us feel excited, that's going to be harder when we remove it. It's not going to be motivating. So this is what I was saying in the beginning, like martial arts might be helpful. I don't know if you already do that, but just something where you've got like group camaraderie. So like I do jiu-jitsu and it's like, you know, like groups of people there and it's like, do you know what I mean? As opposed to like when I go to the gym, I feel like it's just me. But I don't know what you do. Again, this is just trying to talk through a screen. So sorry if I'm getting things wrong. The other thing to remember though, Indigo, is if you think about addiction, any addiction, if you learn about dopamine, so what happens is we're flooded, if you don't already know, but we're flooding our brains with dopamine. And dopamine is the neurotransmitter. So it's like the chemical in our brain which drives us toward pleasure. So it makes us do pleasurable things because it gives us that get up and go, that pursuit. And when we flood our brains with dopamine excessively with cocaine, so I don't know the statistics, I'm not good with remembering numbers, but I think it's like 75 times more dopamine from cocaine. It's like a high percentage than what you get from everyday activities. So what that means is that everyday life does feel boring. So again, what you can do is reduce the amount of cocaine you're having, increase the quality of life. So start doing things where you're starting to feel alive again, like say, for example, martial arts. And what will happen is it'll be easier to get to that place where you're like, actually, I'm ready to stop. So think about it like, okay, part of your recovery doesn't start when you stop, it starts beforehand. And that can be motivating. Hendo, coke was the hardest thing to kick. I had to change my entire life to kick it. I moved to a different area, out of a city, and just disconnected from everyone, apart from my wife and kids. That stuff is tough. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I took coke, but I had an issue with cocoa so it was like every time I had a drink, I wanted a line. Every time I had a drink, I wanted a line. So I was doing it probably about 3 or 4 times a week, and I switched it up for another drug, and then I had fucking ordeal getting off that. So I haven't had to kick coke, and I haven't had a full-on coke addiction where it's been every day, and I know people who have. And my friend, so I had a ketamine addiction, and my best friend, he had a really bad ketamine addiction to the point where he used to inject himself with ketamine. And he said, so he ended up then having a crack addiction, and he said, you think that getting off coke, ketamine was hard. He's like, you haven't got a fucking clue what it's like when it comes to crack. He's like, it's a complete different league. I know that's not coke, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but it is doable. And that's the thing, that I want to be real on this channel. Like, I don't want to sit there and go, oh, it's so easy, just go to an AA group. It's not, but it is doable. And the reason why I want to be clear on that is I don't want, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I don't want you to sit there thinking, well, I can't do it, and she's, like, people saying you can do it. It's not that, it's not easy, but it is doable. And it's about just thinking about, like, what Hendo said, it's about changing your life. Now, Hendo, sorry, I'm assuming you're a he, because the majority of people on my channel are men. But Hendo's moved location. That can be a part of it, but realistically what Hendo's saying is he had to change his life, like from start to finish. And that's exactly what I had to do. And a lot of addicts who are completely recovered, I've went through that same process, and it's an inside job. You have to start changing your brain chemistry, your habits, how you talk to yourself, the things that you're doing. So it's your internal world and your external world, and you can't do that tomorrow. Well, maybe Hendo moved location, that would make it easier to do it tomorrow, but for me, I had to accept I had a kid. I had to start doing it little bit by little bit, like accept it. Okay, my life's shit right now, there's no wonder I'm a fucking addict, but I'm gonna have to change it one day at a time, bit by bit, one habit at a time. So yeah. The Grosvenor, it creeps up on you how fast that stuff does, mate. I can't fully get away from it myself, and how sad to be happy that I don't earn more money, because I know it would go on that shit. I mean, yeah, that is a fucking really shit statement, isn't it? Like, if that, like, I think that puts it up into a nutshell, like sums it up, with the fact that you're happy that you don't make more money. I don't think people who don't have addiction understand just how brutal it is. Like, it's so demoralizing, and when you're stuck it, when you're knee deep in it, it just feels like quicksand. Like, you're just stuck in it, and the more you struggle, the worse it gets, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying, it's depressing. And yeah, I think this idea of when people say things like, oh, just, it's a choice, or stop being so selfish, like, if that person had an addiction, they would not be sat there saying, stop being so selfish. It's so difficult. I do want to say, though, if anyone is feeling like this right now and they want some support, I'm doing a free addiction group, and I do free one-to-ones. And just go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. It's in my YouTube page. And it's all free. I'm not here to, like, pry on vulnerable people. I've been there, so it's all free. But the thing is, although it does feel like that, it is about thinking, okay, just commit to what one thing can I do every day which is in alignment with my recovery. And that is enjoying living inside your own head, and making sure that you're not living in a shitty environment. aka, if you hate your job, like, can we look at thinking, is this the right job for me? If your friends are just a bunch of cunts, like, do I need to be surrounded by a bunch of dickheads? Like, is that really going to be helpful in my recovery? Like, how can I go put myself in spaces where I'm going to meet new people? And this is, again, things like sport can be helpful. Right. That skinny pork belly is for my boyfriend, and my boyfriend only to know. Thank you very much. Right. Yeah, I agree. I thought addiction was a joke until I realised I was an alcoholic. Yeah, I was training to be an addictions therapist. So like I went into my therapy training and I wanted to be an addictions therapist. And because you had to do a load of personal development, I started triggering trauma. And I was, look, I've always used drugs recreationally and alcohol. There was not a day in my 20s where I was sober. But I started like learning about all trauma and stuff like this. And then started realizing like loads of stuff started coming to the surface. And I started getting PTSD. And then I ended up getting an addiction. And if I had been an addictions therapist before I had an addiction, I dread to think the level of harm I would have done with the attitude I had towards addiction. And then I got a good healthy dose of addiction. It was like the universe saying, oh, you want to help addiction, do you? And not with that attitude. And there you go, having an addiction, see what it feels like. And it was fucking horrific. I honestly don't think that I've ever went through something as tough as that, and I'm quite a strong person, I would say. Stay on task, lads. Nick is saying, yeah, fingers on, as my son says at school, he's 4, he's like, fingers in baskets if you're gonna be typing some messy naughty boy stuff. Oh god. Happy New Year's Eve, by the way. I haven't said that. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Has anyone got any questions around addiction and mental health? Because I'm a therapist. Yeah, so let us know. Because I'm going to be going soon, but I'll stick about if there's some questions. Right, so... Or, I don't know how you say, Mr. Noble. I'm an alcoholic and I have a fiance that's Nigerian. He bought it... he's Nigerian. I don't know. I don't know if you're female or male. He bought us a house and bought me a Mercedes Benz and bought me breast implants 2 years ago. But we've been dating for 3 years, but he's my fiance. Is there more information to that? I'm trying to work out what the question is. Oh god, your accent is like mice stuck in an ear canal scratching ferociously. All bloody mate. I mean, that's quite graphic. Oh god. Right, my daughter's mom is hooked on fent and cocaine, but she doesn't want to stop it. Is there any help for her? Last lap, Lando. Yeah, there's always hope for somebody. I will be real, like fent and cocaine so the way to think about this is if we're dealing with a loved one on addiction, like any addiction is it is so tough to do. It is doable. Like you absolutely can do it, and many people do it, and your life is a million times better for it, providing you build a life that you enjoy around it. So don't just pull the crutch without replacing it. It's really tough, but if you're gonna go, it is like going to war with your brain. Like you have to go into battle against addiction. There's no other way to describe it, because it's every day. You've got a new battle with it in the beginning, certainly. So for somebody to be able to do that, like doing it for somebody else isn't going to be enough. Like the amount of willpower, like not willpower, but motivation and grit and determination, I would say is better than willpower. Grit and determination that you're going to need isn't going to be accessible because somebody's saying that you should do it. So it has to come from the person. What I would say would be helpful is learning about addiction and why addiction occurs. So fentanyl, so like I would imagine, so fentanyl is like an opiate, which is a pain, it's a painkiller. So they did a study on people with heroin addiction, which is like fentanyl is worse, I've heard. Haven't tried it. but 2/3 of the participants, so that's out of 20,000 heroin addicts, 2/3 of them had experienced child abuse. Nearly all of them had experienced like child abuse. So 2/3 sexual child abuse, nearly all child abuse. So I would imagine, and the reason why is because it's linked with that it's natural pain relief. So I'd imagine learning about it can be helpful, because then you can hold empathy and non-judgment. But what is absolutely crucial when dealing with somebody with addiction is also holding boundaries. Like, you have to be boundaried, because if we're not boundaried with somebody in addiction, what's going to happen is you're going to start to build up resentment and anger and disappointment and upset. And these emotions aren't going to make you the best version of yourself for them. And then what's going to happen is they're going to then just build up shame, which is then going to be worse for them. So the best thing we need to do is put in boundaries so that we can support them without the resentment, because that realistically, it's not going to be helpful to you or them. And I can absolutely give you a free one-to-one on this if you want. Right, so I am freezing, guys. I think the pressure on my boiler's dropped, and this cup of coffee is actually making us more cold than warm. So I'm gonna go, but I'll answer 2 more questions. So last slap is saying, do you have contact info for therapy? So I'm not doing therapy, but I am a therapist. So what I am doing, because I'm trying to support people without charging. So what I am doing is offering a free one-to-one, and I can sit there and hash out some practical steps forward for you to start now, and then also, which is like tailored to you, and then also I'll find out which services in your area. So in the northeast of England, we've got a great service called Props, and what they do is they work with loved ones who has got, so like if I say my mum's got an addiction, they'll work with me to support me and my mum in the best way and teach us how to do that. So I'll signpost you to the right people who can help you. As opposed to doing therapy with you. Right. Nick said, you're providing valuable help for people. Thank you. Oh, thanks for that. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, Ashley, being a mod sounds interesting. Brilliant. I'm going to put you on now. The only thing I say is, oh, I've pinned it. Sorry. Oh, God. I'm so bad with technology, to be honest. My unpinned message, fuck's sake. Feel free to go, guys, because I'm just being an absolute... Right, add as moderator. The only thing I say is just don't bother getting rid of people who are trolls, because they actually drive me channel out. I love a good troll, because it just ups my activity, which means it puts us in front of the people who need us. But yeah, just the way you answer to people, I think you always, if I don't know a fact and I can't remember it, you seem to know them. So I just feel like you're a good person to answer. People could benefit from you. Last tab. So do I email you for a one-to-one? Yeah, so anybody who wants to get in touch, I take a couple of days to reply to emails, because I try to be boundaried. Just because I'm a single mummy with a 4-year-old. But anyone who wants to get in touch, anything help is free of support, like free support. It's schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and it's dead easy to use. As soon as you go on my website and on your phone or on your computer, it'll come up a form, and it's confidential. It goes to my email and nobody has access. And we'll just get that sorted. And even if you don't want to have a call, you can just send us messages. I'll reply to them. So yeah, if there's anyone watching who hasn't wanted to comment or whatever, just feel free to get in touch, because I know that a live isn't enough time. And isn't fully ethical sometimes if you need that extra bit of support. Nick's saying, "Mummy." I know I am a mummy. Not until the 4th. I've got days off until the 4th of December. Right, guys, normally I do meet a live on New Year's Eve, and I'm not. I'm going to have a live tonight. I'm going to go see my partner. But I'm going to be back on like usual. So I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m, 9 p.m. And yeah, if anyone could give us a subscribe, that's super free and really helpful. But if not, don't worry. Just thanks for everyone who's came, and yeah, happy New Year's Eve, and I'll see you in the new year. New year, new brain to end on the thing. We've got this, guys. So yeah, everybody enjoy a clean, sober evening, or at least not too messy. And if we do make any mistakes, pick yourself up and dust yourself off. Don't let it be a full-on relapse. We've still got a choice. Just because we fail doesn't mean that we don't get to pick ourselves up. So yeah, bye everyone. Oh, you should come back, your mum. It's on my YouTube as well, my times. So it's all GMT time as well. Bye. Yeah, don't let a slip become a slide. Fucking love that. I'm going to write that down. Don't let a slip. I'm going to steal that. I might not remember your name, Nick. So, yeah, I'm just going to steal it. So just so you know, it's probably because I forgot your name because I've got ADHD. Not that I'm not referencing you, but I love that. Don't let a slip become a slide, guys. We're not kids. We don't need to be going down slides. We need to be going uphill, striving toward a better life. Stole it from a friend. Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm stealing it from you. So see you later, guys. Bye.